As a single mother, I was insulted by an arrogant man during a job interview. When I got home, a call from a former employee shocked me and left me utterly terrified. I always woke up before dawn, my small apartment in the city already bathed in a soft yellow light. Every morning, I'd call out to my son, Samuel, my voice a mixture of exhaustion and warmth. "Samuel, my darling, it's time to wake up," I'd say, forcing a smile despite my weariness. I watched as Samuel, still groggy with sleep, rubbed his eyes and crawled out of bed. "Come on, let's go," I encouraged, and he'd respond with a sleepy, "Mom," trying his best to muster some energy. As I prepared breakfast, I paid attention to every little detail, my actions a testament to the deep love and unconditional devotion I had for my son. I kept a watchful eye on Samuel as he ate his cereal, my gaze filled with tenderness. "Did you sleep well, my love?" I asked, wanting to make sure he was well rested for school. Samuel nodded cheerfully, his mouth full of food, and my heart swelled with pride and constant concern. I knew that each day was a battle to ensure my son had a happy childhood. When Samuel confessed, "I have a science test today, and I'm a bit nervous," I could hear him seeking reassurance in my response. "You'll be fine, my angel. You always do well," I said, infusing my words with confidence and encouragement. After breakfast, I helped Samuel into his school uniform, my hands deftly adjusting his tie. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly, thinking, "You're growing up so fast," but I kept my tone light, not wanting to burden him with my emotions. "Ready to go? You look like such a handsome young gentleman now," I joked, and Samuel's laughter brightened the morning air. Our relationship was a beautiful blend of love and mutual respect, a bond I'd nurtured since the day he was born. The walk to school was our daily ritual, a time we cherished together. Hand in hand, we navigated the busy streets, chatting about nothing and everything. When Samuel asked dreamily, "Mom, do you think we can go to the sea someday?" my heart ached with hope and longing. I smiled, squeezing his hand a little tighter. "Of course, my darling. We'll work hard for that," I promised, though in my heart, I knew our financial reality made that dream seem like a distant shore. Those morning walks were precious to me, a time when I could listen to Samuel's thoughts and dreams, nurturing his hopes as we made our way to school. As we arrived, I knelt down to Samuel's eye level, wrapping him in a tight embrace. I told him to do his best on the science test, calling him my champion and assuring him he'd do well. Samuel hugged me back, and I could feel the comfort and love radiating from him. He thanked me, told me he loved me, and then ran off to join his friends. I watched him disappear into the school building, my heart swelling with pride but also aching a little. Each day, I saw him grow just a bit more, and it felt like our lives were slowly drifting apart, but I understood that this independence was necessary for his growth. On my way home, I couldn't help but think about how fortunate I was to have Samuel. Despite all the hardships, he was my light, my reason for living. My desire to provide a better life for him was what drove me to constantly seek better job opportunities. "I'll make it happen for him. I have to," I whispered to myself, steeling my resolve. Our relationship was built on a foundation of love and sacrifice, and that gave me the strength to keep fighting. Those simple morning moments, though brief, were so important to Samuel and me. Our shared routines, our honest conversations, and our mutual support were building a solid foundation for our lives. Despite the difficulties, I was always there for Samuel, making sure he felt loved and supported. "We're a team, Samuel. Always have been, always will be," I thought to myself as I prepared to face the day. My heart was warmed by the unconditional love I felt for my son. Samuel was such a curious and intelligent child, with seemingly boundless energy. Those bright blue eyes of his sparkled with excitement every day, eager to discover something new. In school, I'd later learn, Samuel was always one of the first to raise his hand when the teacher asked a question. It warmed my heart to imagine him eager as a beaver, his little arm shooting up in the air. One day, his teacher asked him to explain the water cycle. I could just picture him, bless his heart, standing up a bit shyly but then launching into an explanation that was surprisingly detailed for a child his age. He told them how water evaporates from the sea to form clouds, and then falls as rain. I wasn't there to see it, but I bet that his confident explanation made his teachers burst with pride. It reminded me of when I was his age, always trying to be the first to answer, though I certainly wasn't as knowledgeable as my Samuel. Samuel's talent for science was truly remarkable, and I'd often find him spending hours reading about planets, animals, and technological inventions. One day, he came to me, his eyes sparkling with excitement, and asked if I knew that people might be able to live on Mars someday. I couldn't help but smile, always eager to encourage his curiosity. I told him it was wonderful and suggested that he might even become one of the engineers creating that new life. Those conversations never failed to ignite Samuel's imagination, and I'd watch with joy as he'd spend hours building car and rocket models with his Lego pieces. I could see in his eyes that he was dreaming of the day his creations might become reality. Though you might not guess it from looking at him, my Samuel had a strength of will that amazed me. Even on days when school didn't go well or when friends were unkind, he always found a way to keep moving forward. I'd tell him not to give up, reminding him that he was stronger than he knew. He'd always respond with that brave smile of his, assuring me he understood and would keep trying. That resilience was something I deeply admired in my son, and I realized his inner strength sometimes surpassed even my expectations. But there were times, especially during school events when fathers were invited, that I'd catch a glimpse of sadness in Samuel's eyes. On those days, he'd sometimes look off into the distance and ask why his daddy had left us. My heart would break a little each time, but I always tried to answer as honestly and lovingly as I could. I'd explain that his father had made a difficult decision, but that we had each other, and that was what mattered most. Samuel would nod and seem to accept it, but I knew the question weighed heavily on his heart. I could see him trying to fill that emptiness with his imagination and dreams for the future. As for me, well, the years of struggle had left their mark on my face. The early wrinkles around my eyes and the lines on my forehead told the story of the challenges I'd faced. I remember when I first met Brian, I was a young woman full of dreams. He promised me eternal love, painting a future together with sweet words and passionate glances. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought the news would strengthen our bond. But Brian's reaction was the opposite of what I'd hoped for. He disappeared, leaving me with the weight of responsibility. Brian's betrayal was a devastating blow. The broken promises and shattered dreams left me with a deep distrust of others. I spent many nights watching Samuel sleep, thinking, I never imagined he'd abandon us like this. The pressure of raising a child alone was immense, made worse by a society that often judged me harshly. I always tried to hold my head high in the face of disapproving looks and unkind words, but the inner pain was a constant companion. I carried that burden day after day, determined to keep supporting myself and Samuel. I worked my fingers to the bone, I tell you. At first, I started cleaning those fancy houses as a housekeeper. Boy, did that ever show me the stark contrast to my own reality. As I polished that marble, I kept telling myself, no use getting down in the dumps about this. Later on, I landed a job as a sales clerk at a small store in the neighborhood. My warm smile and friendly manner were like honey to the customers. Good morning. Can I help you with anything? I'd ask, always trying to keep that positive energy flowing, even when fatigue and worry threatened to overwhelm me like a tidal wave. The trauma of being abandoned had turned me into a cautious soul, with trust issues a mile wide. I avoided getting emotionally involved with others, scared to death of being let down again. I can't afford to get hurt again, I'd whisper to myself, like a mantra. Every decision I made, Samuel was my North Star. He was my top priority, the reason I kept putting one foot in front of the other. Everything I do is for him, I'd think, feeling a mix of pride and responsibility that was heavier than a ton of bricks. Life had dealt me some hard knocks, but I was bound and determined not to let it knock me down for the count. Despite all the hurdles, being a mother gave me strength I never knew I had. Samuel's smiles and every little success at school reminded me why I kept fighting the good fight. When he came home, his face lit up like a Christmas tree, telling me he'd aced his science test. I hugged him tight enough to squeeze the stuffing out of him. Joy bubbled up inside me like a fountain. "I'm so proud of you, my darling," I said, my eyes welling up like a spring shower. Those moments gave meaning to my struggles, filling my heart with a joy that could overcome any obstacle. Loneliness was my constant companion, too. Many nights, after tucking Samuel in, I'd sit alone in the living room, looking back on the past and dreaming of a brighter future. Will someone who truly cares for us ever come along? I'd ask myself, feeling the emptiness Brian had left behind. Even so, I'd remind myself that I'd overcome it all, and built a stable life for myself and my son. We're strong, Samuel and I. Together, we can weather any storm, I'd think, finding solace in the power of a mother's love. I was dreaming of a future brimming with hope. I've got to find a better job, I'd say to myself, determined to improve our quality of life. I knew in my bones that I deserved more than the limited opportunities I'd had so far. Each day was a new chance to prove I could overcome any obstacle life threw my way. "I'm stronger than any challenge," I'd declare, steeling my resolve like a warrior going into battle. I believed that with enough elbow grease and patience, I could give Samuel a life full of opportunities and success. To better our situation, I decided to apply for an office job at a big city company. I spotted the position in a newspaper ad, and even though I knew the competition would be fierce, a new spark of hope ignited in my heart. "I've got to take this chance," I muttered to myself as I printed out multiple copies of my resume. I went over those documents with a fine-tooth comb, making sure every detail was perfect. The nights before submitting my application were filled with anxiety, but my determination never wavered. Samuel needs a better life, and I'm going to make it happen, I thought, feeling my motivation soar like a rocket. I felt it was high time to prepare for the interview. I started researching the company, jotting down important points that might come in handy during the conversation. The interviewers would want to know how I could contribute to their team, I figured, so I took detailed notes about my experiences. I understood that even though my experience was mainly in housekeeping and sales, my organizational skills and dedication to work were my strong suits. "I've got to prove I'm more than just a single mother," I resolved, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement bubbling up inside me. On the morning of the interview, I was up with the roosters, double-checking that everything was ready. I asked Samuel if he had everything packed for school, trying to hide my own nervousness. He assured me he was all set, his eyes showing he'd picked up on the worry in my face. With an encouraging smile, he told me to do my best at the interview and that it would definitely go well. I knelt down and hugged Samuel tightly, my heart swelling with love. "Thank you, my darling. You're my inspiration," I told him, feeling his words renew my determination. I walked Samuel to school, chatting about the day ahead. "You'll ace that test today, Samuel. Remember everything we studied," I said, squeezing his hand as we walked. Samuel answered with all the confidence in the world, assuring me we'd both succeed that day. At the school, I crouched down to his level for one last hug. "Do your best, champion. I'll be thinking of you all day," I said, watching him dash off into the school building. As I turned to leave, I felt a mix of pride and anxiety churning inside me. On my way to the company, I felt like my chest was in a vice. I chose my outfit for the interview with care, opting for something simple but professional. Standing in front of the mirror, I adjusted my blouse collar and made sure my hair was neat as a pin. "You can do this, Erin. You're strong and capable," I whispered to myself, trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. I realized this wasn't just about finding a job, it was about seizing a chance to change our lives. On my way to the company, I felt like my chest was in a vice. I understood this interview could be a game changer for us, but boy, was the pressure intense. "Keep your cool and believe in yourself," I thought, taking a deep breath to steady my nerves. The journey to the company felt like it took forever, but I used that time to practice answering interview questions in my head. "Why do you want to work here? What can you bring to the team?" I repeated softly, preparing for any curveballs they might throw my way. When the company building finally came into view, a chill ran down my spine, but I held my head high. I arrived right on time, walked into the building, and approached the reception desk. "Good morning. I have an appointment with Mr. Davis for an interview," I said, trying to keep my voice as steady as a rock. The young receptionist checked my information with a professional smile and told me to wait in the waiting room. "Understood, thank you," I replied, trying my darndest not to let my nerves show as I sat down. I couldn't help but size up the other folks around me, and boy, did they all look more prepared and confident than I felt. "You can do this, Erin. You're strong and capable," I repeated to myself like a broken record, steeling my resolve. When my name was finally called, I stood up, feeling a mix of tension and relief washing over me like a tidal wave. A young assistant led me to the interview room where Justin Davis was waiting, looking about as welcoming as a brick wall. I walked in with as much confidence as I could muster, but I'm sure my nerves were as clear as day. He sat behind a desk built like a fortress, with an intimidating presence and eyes that could cut glass. He barely looked up, giving me a once-over that felt more like a dismissal than an assessment. "Sit down," he said, his voice as cold and unsympathetic as a January morning. I obeyed, trying to keep my cool even though my heart was doing the cha-cha in my chest. I started to thank him for his time, but he cut me off quickly. "Let's get to the point," he said, eyeing the papers in front of him like they were more interesting than I could ever be. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I braced myself for his questions. Justin started grilling me about my resume, his tone dripping with condescension. He asked how I thought my experience as a housekeeper and sales clerk was relevant to an office job, with a smirk that made me want to crawl under the carpet. I took a deep breath, summoning all my courage. I explained how those jobs had taught me to be organized and efficient, and how I'd honed my time management skills and ability to deal with all sorts of people. Justin nodded skeptically, muttering that it wasn't enough for this job, like he was talking to himself rather than to me. As the interview went on, Justin kept interrupting me, dismissing my experiences and skills like they were yesterday's news. He made it crystal clear, without even trying to hide his bias, that he needed someone with corporate experience, not someone who'd only worked in small local stores. I felt frustration building up inside me like a pressure cooker, but I was determined to keep my cool and stay professional. I told Davis that I understood his concerns, but I truly believed my skills could be valuable to the team. I was hanging on to hope by my fingernails. Justin seemed to be enjoying this whole situation like a cat with a mouse, that smug smile never leaving his face. He finally dropped the hammer, telling me point blank that I didn't have what it took for this job. My heart sank like a stone, but I kept my poker face. I made one last-ditch effort, assuring him that I was a quick learner and could adapt in no time. But Justin looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his shoe. He told me they weren't in the business of training novices and needed someone who could hit the ground running. And just like that, he pulled the plug on our conversation. I stood up, feeling the heat of humiliation creeping up my neck. I thanked him for his time, trying to keep my voice steady. Justin nodded, already back to his paperwork, and wished me luck in my job search in a tone that was about as warm as a deep freezer. I hightailed it out of that room, feeling tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. I did my best, I thought, trying to console myself as I walked down that hallway, but Justin's rejection and disdain had hit me like a ton of bricks. I left that building feeling lower than a snake's belly, fighting back tears every step of the way. I tried so hard to keep my composure during that interview, but Justin Davis's insults and contempt were more than I could bear. I felt small and powerless, like all my hard work and dedication had been for nothing. Justin's cold words kept echoing in my head like a broken record. I'm not good enough, I thought, blinking back tears as I walked towards Samuel's school. When I spotted Samuel coming out of the school gates, I quickly wiped my eyes and plastered on a smile. I asked him how his day was, trying to sound chipper. Samuel, bless his heart, was always a perceptive little thing and noticed right away that something was off. He told me about his day and the fun science activity they'd done, but I could see his eyes studying my worn-out expression. I held his hand, trying to focus on his chatter about school as we walked. When he asked how my interview went, his voice full of curiosity and concern, I felt my heart break all over again. I hesitated for a moment, caught between honesty and protecting my son. It was tough, honey, but don't you worry. I'll keep at it, I said, squeezing Samuel's hand with all the love I could muster. Samuel nodded, but I could see the concern lingering in his eyes like a morning fog. Back home, I threw myself into making dinner, trying to lose myself in the familiar routine of chopping and stirring. But the kitchen, usually my sanctuary, felt as cold and distant as the moon that night. As I sliced vegetables, my mind wandered back to the interview. Justin's contemptuous words and constant interruptions played on repeat in my head. You don't have what it takes for this job, he'd said, and those words cut deeper than the knife in my hand ever could. Why did he treat me like that? All I wanted was a chance, I thought, feeling a lump in my throat. I told myself I couldn't fall apart, not now, not when Samuel needed me to be strong. You okay, Mom? Samuel's gentle voice cut through my thoughts like a warm knife through butter. I took a deep breath, plastering on a smile even though my heart felt heavier than a lead balloon. I'm fine, sweetie. Just had a tough day, that's all, I replied, trying to keep my voice as steady as a rock. Samuel came over and hugged me tight, and I knew he could sense the sadness I was trying so hard to hide. He told me I was the best mom in the world and that I'd find a great job for sure, his childlike faith in me as pure as the driven snow. I felt tears welling up again, but I blinked them back, drawing strength from my son's words like a plant soaking up sunlight. As I finished up dinner, my mind drifted to the never-ending challenges of being a single mother. Every day was a battle to give Samuel what he needed. A good education, unconditional love, and support. If only I could give him more, I thought, feeling the frustration of my situation like a tight rubber band around my chest. Memories of Brian, Samuel's father, flooded back like a dam breaking. He'd promised me the moon and stars, but when I told him I was pregnant, he'd hightailed it faster than a jackrabbit. Maybe everything would be easier if he were here, I caught myself thinking, but I shut that thought down quickly. I'd learned to stand on my own 2 feet, to be strong without leaning on anyone else. After dinner, while Samuel was doing his homework, I sat in the living room, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts about the future. I can't give up now, I told myself, feeling a new determination bubbling up inside me like a pot on the boil. I knew Samuel needed me, and I was bound and determined to find a way to make our lives better. Justin's rejection still stung like a bee, but I knew deep down it wouldn't be the thing to stop me in my tracks. Tomorrow's another day, I thought, trying to rally my spirits like a coach at halftime. I understood the road ahead would be rougher than a cob, but I also knew I had the gumption to overcome any obstacle thrown my way. With Samuel by my side, I felt like I could move mountains if I had to. That night, to put Samuel to bed, I lay down next to him and held him tight. "I love you, my angel," I whispered, feeling a surge of love and protectiveness that nearly took my breath away. Samuel looked into my eyes and smiled, telling me he loved me too and that I was his hero. Those words warmed my heart like a cozy fire on a cold winter's night. As I left his room, I felt a new strength rising within me, as steady and unstoppable as the tide. "We'll get through this, Samuel. You and me, we'll weather this storm together," I vowed, steeling myself to keep fighting for a better future. I understood then, clear as day, that no matter what difficulties came our way, the love between us was our greatest strength. After putting Samuel to bed, the day's exhaustion hit me like a ton of bricks. I sank into the sofa, hoping to relax a bit before turning in, but my thoughts kept circling back to the humiliation I'd suffered in that interview with Justin. Just as I was about to get lost in my thoughts, the phone rang, shattering the night's quiet like a stone through glass. I picked up the receiver, figuring it was probably just a run-of-the-mill call. "Hello?" I answered, my voice still heavy with fatigue. The voice on the other end was urgent and tense, telling me they had something important to discuss with me right away. I frowned, not recognizing the voice right off the bat. "Who is this?" I asked, feeling a chill run down my spine like an icy finger. The woman on the phone introduced herself as Angela Miller, a former employee at the company where I'd interviewed with Justin Davis. Her voice was as shaky as a leaf in the wind, anxiety dripping from every word. When I asked what was going on, she launched into her story like a racehorse out of the gate. She told me Justin Davis was a lawless man involved in fraudulent activities and routinely humiliating employees. Angela said she and other former employees were planning to expose him, but they needed my help. I was speechless, feeling the weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. "But why me?" I asked, my voice trembling. What could I possibly do? Angela explained further, saying they knew about the humiliation I'd endured in the interview. She wanted me to testify in court about my experience, saying my testimony would be crucial to their case against Davis. She told me other candidates would be testifying too, and that Davis had been getting away with this behavior for years. "We need your courage," she said. "Together, we can bring him down." I felt a heavy responsibility settle on my shoulders. I expressed my concerns about my lack of experience and the potential consequences if things went south. Angela assured me they'd support me every step of the way, that I wouldn't be alone in this fight. As I listened, I thought about Samuel and the future I wanted for him. Getting involved scared me half to death, but the desire for justice and the chance to make a change burned strong within me. Still, I worried about our safety if I went through with this. I felt like a ship caught between two strong currents, the urge to act and the fear of the unknown. I told Angela I needed time to think, that I couldn't make such a big decision at the drop of a hat. She understood, bless her heart, and agreed to give me a day to decide. Before hanging up, she urged me to decide quickly, saying that swift action could prevent Justin from hurting more people. After the call, I sank back into the sofa, my mind was racing. What should I do? I asked myself, feeling the pressure of the decision weighing on me like a heavy blanket. I knew Angela was right as rain, but I also understood the risks was high. If I do this, we might expose a corrupt man and make our lives better, I thought, but if something goes south, what'll happen to Samuel? My heart was torn between two tough choices. I glanced towards Samuel's room where he was sleeping peaceful as a lamb, and felt a surge of protective love wash over me like a tidal wave. Everything I do is for him, I reminded myself, searching my heart for the right answer. Finally, I knew I needed to bounce this off someone else, so I picked up the phone again and called my dear friend Kendra. Kendra, honey, can you lend an ear? It's mighty important, I said, my voice shaking like a leaf. Kendra was always a peach, understanding and ready to help. She listened quietly as I spilled the whole story. What do you reckon I should do? I asked, desperate for her 2 cents. After chewing it over, Kendra told me I was strong and brave as a lion. If I thought I could help expose that man, she believed I could do it, but I needed to be prepared for the risks. Her support was like a warm blanket on a cold night. After our chat, I felt calmer, and my mind made up. I can't live my life scared as a rabbit, I thought. If there's a chance to make a better future for Samuel, I've got to take it. Kendra's words had given me the backbone I needed. I knew this decision wasn't going to be a walk in the park, but I couldn't turn a blind eye to a chance for justice. I'm doing this for myself and for Samuel, I decided, picking up the phone to call Angela back. Angela, I'm in. I'll help expose Justin Davis, I said, my voice a mix of fear and determination. Later, we all met at a quiet cafe downtown, chosen for its peace and anonymity. I was as nervous, and fiddling with my coffee cup while waiting for Angela. She arrived right on time, bringing other former employees and candidates with her. They were all victims of Justin Davis, just like I'd been. Angela introduced me to Steve, Heather, and Terry, and I greeted each of them like old friends. As I listened to their stories of humiliation, I felt a mix of solidarity and sorrow, like we were all members of a club nobody wanted to join. Angela, with a voice firm, told us we all had a reason to be there. We needed to take Justin down and make him face the music for his actions. Steve, a man in his 40s who looked like he'd been through the ringer, spoke first. He'd given that company 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears, but Davis had treated him like yesterday's garbage. Steve told us how Davis would holler at him and humiliate him in front of colleagues, and when he spoke up about the abuse, Davis gave him the boot. My heart ached like a bad tooth as I listened, and I felt my resolve harden like cement. That's just not right, I said, nobody deserves to be treated like that. Then Heather, a young woman who reminded me of myself at that age, shared her story of being humiliated during an interview. She said Davis made her feel worthless, like she was no more important than a fly on the wall. Terry, a middle-aged former employee, showed us some documents that were smoking guns. He had emails proving Davis's abusive behavior, showing how he'd insult employees and use his power to threaten them. As I looked at those papers, I felt anger and sadness swirling in my chest like a tornado. This is unforgivable, I thought, my eyes glued to the evidence. Angela, sensing the tension thick as pea soup, spoke up again. She said we needed to gather as much evidence as possible and present it to the authorities. With our testimonies and this evidence, she was sure we could build a case against Davis, stronger than Fort Knox. When the day of the trial finally rolled around, I felt like I was going to jump out of my skin. The courtroom was packed tighter than a can of sardines, and I could see Angela, Steve, Heather, and Terry's faces in the crowd. We were all nervous, but there was a sense of unity in the air. This is it, I thought, taking a deep breath to calm my nerves. I knew this was the moment of truth, not just for me, but for everyone Davis had ever hurt. Justin waltzed into the courtroom looking smug. He still thought he was going to get away scot-free. He denied all the charges, claiming they were baseless and that he was the victim of a witch hunt. "This is ridiculous," he said, putting on a show of confidence for the judge. "They're trying to ruin my reputation without a shred of real evidence. But let me tell you, the evidence we had was solid." The documents Terry submitted, those nasty emails, and all our testimonies started painting a clear picture of Justin's crooked, abusive behavior. I watched it all unfold like a soap opera, feeling a mix of vindication and disbelief. When my turn came to testify, I felt a chill run down my spine like an ice cube. All eyes were on me as I walked to the stand, feeling like I was in a fishbowl. The lawyer asked me to tell the court what happened during my interview with Davis. I took a deep breath, steadying myself like I was about to jump off the high dive, and started sharing my humiliating experience. I told them how he kept interrupting me, belittling me, making it clear as day that he thought I wasn't fit for the job. His words were as cutting as a rusty knife, making me feel small and powerless. I spoke with a steady voice, though inside I was shaking like a leaf. While I was talking, Justin tried to butt in, but the judge shut him down fast. He told Justin he'd have his chance to speak, but he needed to wait until I was done. I went on to describe how Justin's attitude had affected my confidence and my life. Leaving that room, I felt like all my hard work had been for nothing, like I'd been running on a treadmill going nowhere. He hadn't given me a fair shake, not even close. I finished my testimony with tears in my eyes, but my head held high. The courtroom went quiet for a moment. Then the judge called the next witness. Angela, Steve, and the others all testified too, backing up my story and sharing their own tales of humiliation and abuse. Steve said Justin treated them like disposable napkins, without an ounce of respect. He showed more insulting emails, each one like another nail in Justin's coffin. Heather shared her story of being unfairly rejected in her interview, and Terry presented even more evidence of Justin's inappropriate behavior. With each testimony, our case against Justin got stronger than steel, and his defense was crumbling like a sandcastle at high tide. Finally, the judge announced the verdict, and you could have heard a pin drop in that courtroom. He looked Justin Davis straight in the eye and laid it out. The judge said the court recognized that Justin's actions were unacceptable and had deeply hurt many people. He declared that Justin would be fired from his position and ordered to pay compensation to all the victims he'd insulted and abused. The moment I heard those words, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, like I just shrugged off a heavy winter coat. I was flooded with relief and a sense of victory, sweet as honey. Looking around, I could see the same feelings of justice and liberation on my companions' faces. Finally, justice has been served, I thought, feeling a new hope blooming in my heart like a spring flower. After the trial, I landed a job as a cleaning lady. The pay was nothing to write home about, but I was grateful. This new gig gave me a bit more financial stability, allowing me to provide Samuel with a safer and cozier nest. I'd spend my evenings helping Samuel with his homework, cherishing every minute we had together like it was gold. One night, Samuel came to me with a board full of ideas, asking if I could help with his science project. I smiled, feeling warm as fresh-baked bread, and told him of course we'd work on it together. We sat at the kitchen table, brainstorming and sketching like a couple of mad scientists. Those moments were precious and created long-lasting memories. The scars from the past were still there, like old battle wounds, but our victory over Justin had brought a new ray of hope. I'd often reflect on my journey and all the hurdles I'd jumped over. Every challenge I faced made me stronger than steel, I'd think to myself, feeling a sense of accomplishment deep in my bones. I realized my fight wasn't just for me, but for all the other folks who'd been hurt too. Winning the trial didn't erase the pain completely, but it gave it new meaning, like turning lemons into lemonade. I've turned this pain into power, I thought, proud of my resilience. Samuel was thriving too, more confident at school in our new, stable home life. After shining at a school presentation, he hugged me tight and called me his hero. It made my heart swell up like a balloon. I smiled, feeling his love wash over me like a warm summer rain, and told him he was my hero too. I kissed his forehead, knowing that whatever life threw our way, we'd face it together. Every victory and joy we shared only made our bond stronger, like a well-knotted tie. After Justin got the boot, the company went through some big changes. They brought in a new head honcho, and suddenly the place was full of respect and ethics, like a breath of fresh air. I was happy in my new job, but I couldn't forget the company where it all started. One day, while I was sorting through some papers, the phone rang. I picked up the receiver, curious about who might be calling. "Hello," I answered, my voice steady as a rock. The voice on the other end belonged to a woman who introduced herself as Joyce Brown, the new HR director at the company where I'd interviewed with Justin Davis. My heart skipped a beat when she asked if I'd be willing to come in for another interview. I was surprised. "Of course," I replied, my voice a mix of nerves and curiosity, like a kid on the first day of school. Joyce suggested 10 a.m. the next morning, and I agreed fast. As I jotted down the time, my emotions were swirling like a tornado in my chest. Has it really changed? I wondered, hoping that the change would be genuine. The next morning, I got ready for the interview with care. I chose my most professional outfit and stood in front of the mirror, giving myself a pep talk. "You can do this, Aaron," I told my reflection, feeling a wave of determination wash over me. When I arrived at the company, the receptionist welcomed me like an old friend and showed me to Joyce's office. As I walked in, I saw a warm, smiling woman who looked about as friendly as my favorite aunt. Joyce stood up, saying how glad she was to finally meet me, and stuck out her hand. I shook it, feeling a bit of the tension melt away. We sat down, and Joyce started the interview with some small talk that was as comfortable as an old pair of slippers. Then she praised my courage in testifying against Justin, saying my actions had helped steer the company in a better direction. Her words warmed my heart. I thanked her and acknowledged that the decision was difficult but necessary. I was pleased to have been part of the change. Joyce then asked if I was still interested in working for the company. She said they were rebuilding their team with people who shared their new values, and they wanted me to be part of it. I thought about it for a hot minute, then decided to accept her offer. I told her I was confident and eager to work here and contribute to the new chapter of the company. Joyce smiled at me and continued to explain the changes at the company. She said it was now a more cooperative environment where folks respected each other, and my experience and work ethic would be a real feather in their cap. I felt a surge of excitement. "I'll give it my all and grow right along with the company," I said, feeling my confidence swell up like a hot air balloon. Joyce went on to explain the nitty-gritty of the job, the responsibilities, and the benefits. She said I'd start as an administrative assistant, but she saw the potential for me to move up the ladder fast. I nodded, feeling pleased. "These are wonderful conditions, Joyce. I'm grateful as all get out for this opportunity," I told her, meaning every word. Joyce looked happy and wrapped up our chat. She welcomed me to the team, saying she was happy to have me on board, and we shook hands again. As I left the room, I felt a mix of relief and excitement bubbling up inside me. This is a new beginning, I thought, feeling ready to tackle this new stage of my life. When I got home and told Samuel the news, he was over the moon. He hugged me tight, saying he was really proud. I smiled, feeling satisfied. "It's been a long road, but we've finally found our place," I said, running my fingers through his hair. This new chance felt like a big step towards a brighter future, as promising as the first day of spring. With a steady job and a team that appreciated my work, I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. I was ready to face any challenge that came my way, armed with confidence and strength. In my new workplace, I hit the ground running. My colleagues welcomed me with open arms, and I found myself an important part of the team. During a meeting, Joyce praised my work, saying it was top-notch. I humbly thanked Joyce, feeling grateful, and made up my mind to work even harder every day. Each day at my new workplace confirmed I'd made the right choice. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, I thought to myself as I walked down the company hallways, feeling like I was part of something important and positive. The company fostered a healthy, cooperative environment where mutual respect was the norm. I felt valued not just for my work, but as a person, like I was more than just a number on a payroll. My colleagues were always ready to lend a hand, creating a sense of camaraderie that reminded me of my old neighborhood block parties. On top of the great work environment, I was pleased with my salary. It was enough to give Samuel a more comfortable and secure life, which was music to my ears. For so long, I'd been worrying about making ends meet, but now that worry had vanished like morning mist in the sunshine. One day, Samuel asked if he could get a new book. I smiled, feeling warm, and told him, "Of course, sweetheart. Let's go pick one out." I answered, grateful for the financial stability my new job provided. This stability allowed me to focus on my work and Samuel's happiness without constantly fretting about money. Every day at the company was like turning a page in a good book, full of new things to learn. I participated in training sessions and workshops, polishing my skills and expanding my knowledge like a sponge soaking up water. Joyce asked if I'd like to join a leadership workshop the following week, encouraging me to spread my wings. I jumped at the chance, thanking her for the opportunity, eager to keep growing professionally like a plant reaching for the sun. These learning opportunities were invaluable, and I saw each day as an opportunity to improve myself. I'm growing and developing in ways I never imagined, I thought, feeling fulfilled. I was also thankful that my bosses respected and recognized me. They valued my contributions and often praised my work, making me feel appreciated. During the feedback meeting, Joyce told me that my dedication was truly amazing and that the team made me feel welcome. I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me, and my motivation to give my all surged. Being constantly evaluated and feeling like an important cog in the company spurred me on. I've finally found a place where I'm truly valued, I thought to myself, smiling with the satisfaction of a gardener admiring their prized roses. The happiness I felt at work spilled over into my personal life, like sunshine through an open window. Every day, I'd come home feeling as accomplished as if I'd climbed Mount Everest, eager to share that joy with Samuel. During dinner one evening, Samuel said I seemed really happy lately, his words warming my heart like a cozy fireplace on a chilly night. "I am, sweetheart. I'm over the moon," I replied, smiling at him like he was the most precious thing in the world. That sense of contentment touched every aspect of my life, making each day more fulfilling. Our lives have taken a turn for the better, and I'm going to squeeze every drop of goodness out of each moment, I thought, feeling grateful. As the weeks rolled by, I continued to grow in my new workplace like a well-tended garden. I was surrounded by supportive colleagues and blessed with a boss who appreciated my work. Every day brought new opportunities to learn and grow, and I embraced each challenge with enthusiasm. With a heart full of gratitude and hope, I told myself, I am where I am supposed to be. The future looked bright, and I felt ready to face any challenge that came my way, armed with the confidence and strength I'd built up over time. As the months flew by like pages in a calendar, I became an increasingly important and valued member of the company. The workplace was healthy and stimulating, and I was turning heads not only in my work, but also in my positive, do-everything attitude. Every day was a chance to learn and grow, and I tackled each challenge with determination. I became a role model for my colleagues, like the popular kid everyone wanted to sit with at lunch, and my bosses frequently praised my efforts. In a meeting, Joyce complimented my project report, saying it had really made a difference. I smiled, feeling proud, thanked her and told her how happy I was to be a part of this team. At home, our life had improved more than I could have ever dreamed. The financial stability from my new job allowed me to give Samuel opportunities I couldn't have imagined before. When Samuel asked, all excited if he could join the school's science club. I grinned from ear to ear. I told him, "Of course, sweetie. Let's sign you up today," feeling like I was giving him the world on a silver platter. That economic stability didn't just bring comfort, it gave us the breathing room to dream of a better future, like birds spreading their wings. My heart was filled with gratitude for the realization that we were building a new life together. The scars from the past were still there, like old battle wounds, but they were starting to heal, little by little. Winning that court case against Justin Davis didn't just bring justice, it gave me a new confidence, like putting on a suit of armor. I realized I'd made a difference not just for myself, but for everyone he'd hurt, and that felt as powerful as moving a mountain. Every challenge I faced made me stronger, I thought, feeling proud of my journey. The pain and humiliation I'd endured now reminded me of my resilience and courage. I'd turned that pain into strength, and it had taken me places I'd never imagined. Samuel and I grew closer every day, sharing moments of joy and learning, building memories as precious as gold. One night, while watching a documentary about famous scientists, Samuel called me his hero, and my heart melted. I smiled, feeling his love and respect wash over me like a warm summer rain. "You're my hero too, Samuel," I told him, hugging him tight. Our bond was as deep and unbreakable as the roots of an old oak tree, strengthened by every battle we'd fought and won together. "Everything I do is for you," I thought, my determination for the future was strong. At work, I was promoted to a position with more responsibility, where I could use my skills and experience in a bigger way. In a meeting, Joyce announced my promotion to project manager, praising my work as exemplary. I was so surprised and happy, I felt like I'd won the lottery. I thanked her from the bottom of my heart, promising to keep giving my best. That promotion was a pat on the back for all my hard work, and it confirmed I was on the right path. I finally felt like I'd found my place in the world, like a puzzle piece clicking into its perfect spot. The company was a place where I could grow and succeed, surrounded by folks who supported and respected me like a family. Every day was a new chance to learn and grow, and I embraced each opportunity with enthusiasm. I'm right where I'm supposed to be, I thought, my heart full of hope. The journey had been long and tough, like climbing a mountain in high heels, but every step had led me to a brighter future. The future stretching out before Samuel and me was full of endless possibilities, like a blank canvas waiting to be painted. I felt ready to tackle any challenge that came our way. And so, Samuel and I kept on living each day with love, hope, and determination. The strength I'd gained through all those hard times was lifting me to new heights, like an eagle soaring on an updraft. The future looked brighter than ever. "We're building a new life together, Samuel. We're unstoppable," I thought, feeling as content and happy. I'd already won some big fights, and I was prepared to face whatever challenges came next, come hell or high water.
Now, if you've enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps us churning out heartfelt stories almost daily, like a well-oiled machine. The next story will be popping up on your screen fast, so keep your eyes peeled. We appreciate your support more than words can express. Until next time, take care and God bless.